Hopefully, it's, you know,
The Moorish divine and national movement of the world. About 9 decades have passed, 913 AD plus, since Noble Drew Ali, official title Sheikh Sharif Abdul Ali, officially established and organized a functional and modern social and political form, conceived and visualized for awakening and activating the enslaved nationality, dormant and unconscious descendants of the ancient Moabite Moors of North America. This organization and form was structured to address and span the broad and general areas of social needs and spiritual concept corrections, economic and political development, with instructional rules for harmony and stability, was addressed and deemed of paramount concern. Concentric efforts were allotted to true spiritual re-education needs and necessities to remove the presiding polarized mental state existing among the natural people. Other multifaceted efforts were geared towards Moorish culture and proper person reintroduction made to uplift the Moorish nation of North America. So those are all the bullet points that when he came on his mission. We're reading the mission statement right now. That's what we're reading. Noble Drew Ali's work, efforts, and instructions included knowledge-based directives for enhanced and advanced functional knowledge of ancient Moabite Moorish philosophy and high cultural disciplines. Prudent and proven government and civilization principles were devoted to personal growth and advancement and to family progress for general corrective improvements. Moors were given knowledge of true government order and structure, with a call to enforce the Constitution of the United States of America. Conscious Moors are to take an intelligent, active stand and position on national and world issues. Particular emphasis was put upon Moors to be active, not passive, and to take our place among the affairs of men. Thus, in these days, we see the exercising and grooming of those active natural persons, Moors who understand and recognize the formerly veiled truths about their unalienable rights and birthrights. Derivative of the medieval era and prior to the openly forced slavery and the bound freedmen period in modern North, Central, and South American history, the proper Moor or Moor spelled M-A-U-R-E or Moor spelled M-O-R-E or Moros spelled M-A-U-R-O-S was factually used and recognized universally according to the dialect and language that was common when people of Asiatic African origin identified themselves or related to themselves. Moor was and is the identity declared when communicating to others. Moors were ancient inhabitants of Asia, Africa, Europe, and throughout the Americas and Americana. The ancient and proper name Moor, M-O-O-R, or Mur, Moroccan, Mauritanian, Moabite, was not only applied in reference to the natural inhabitants of the Moroccan Empire of Northwest Africa, America, the extreme Western Hemisphere, nor just to the natural and political inhabitants of the provincial kingdom of Morocco, Kemet, etc., the Eastern Hemisphere. The proper pedigree natal name Moor was traditionally and customarily used synonymously with the word African. The contemporary misapplication of the brand word Negro has a connotative function. The ancient origin of Negro refers to the troglodyte nigger, which is a black chimpanzee monkey. Negro is a chattel brand, which was, with disorientating intent, contemporarily implied to Moors for strawman, corporate adhesion, contracting, and deceptive nom de guerre uses for the benefit of European colonial slaveholders, the corporate state for mental twisting, and for social political dehumanization advantages. The medieval era, also referred to as the Middle Age, deals with the intermediate period between the ancient and modern time periods. The medieval period generally refers to that time period which spanned from 500 AD to 1500 AD. So that's the medieval period, from 500 AD to 1500 AD. Anybody start talking to you about anything, characters in the Bible, prophets, sultans, historical accounts. Oh, what year did this take place? And then you start narrowing things down. So it's good to know time periods. Most historians, scholars, and writers use the year 1492 AD as the designated axis year for dividing ancient history from modern history. Note that 1492 AD is the year when the Moors were defeated in Europe, signaling the colonization of and venturing into the Moroccan Empire of the northwest of Mexico, signifying North America. And that's like, last Sunday in Long Beach at the outing, the brother from Palestine came up and we was like, yeah, this, we're not talking about the kingdom of Morocco. This Morocco empire at large. And, we said, this is Maghreb al-Aqsa. And he was like, oh, the farthest west. People know what's going on around here. Chattel. Chattel is a law term which has been and is politically applied to human beings who have been dehumanized by the U.S. DMO artificial person constructs and acts of forced enslavement. Chattel means an article of goods or a thing, and is specifically applied in law to goods movable and or immovable, except such have the nature of freehold status. So people with freehold status aren't considered chattel. Chattel is also spelled cattle. That is the same word as cattle. The subtlety of its political use within society is to make the apparent distinction between a socially and politically neutered or civilly dead human being and that of a common beast of the field. Refer to the William Lynch letters or papers. Also, Willie Lynch manual. There's another name you can look it up as. Negro is thusly a favored sobriquet coined by modern day European slaveholders occupying North America in order to regulate and distinguish chattel property from free Moors, other free people, or from free nationals, designated as sovereigns from other free African or Asian national or political states. The brand Negro is Latin and defines a Black meaning loss of consciousness and of social, moral, and civil death. Thus, much emphasis was put upon the mental and social state of civil death and spiritual death, and recognized as a person suffering of a broken spirit. The occupying Europeans' artificial creation of the corporate Negro status laid the illusory groundwork needed for the colorable erection and construction of false jurisdictions and straw man constructs used to fund and support their fictive claims of authority, legality, and law. These colorable social, political fictions and jurisdictions were invented for veiling bureaucratized forced servitude and to carry out birthright theft against the Aboriginal and Indigenous Moors. Thus, false corporate jurisdictions are the institutionalized origins for functionally applying color codes, color of law, and the fictionally justified term colored people. The Negro status in its social nature and profits generating effects involves activation of the firmly held and dignified Black code systems. So look up Christian Black codes. Deemed towards political separation of such neuter classified beings So you don't have a nationality, you're considered neutered. Classified beings from the illustrious and high culture knowledge of civilization, and absent from affecting the authority operative governing affairs of self. So you're considered neutered if you and your people can't just figure it out, put your ego aside, organize, set up businesses, act like y'all remember y'all culture, have that reflected modern time in real time. If that's not going on, you're looked at as a neutered, you're classified as neutered, as well as stateless, as well as chattel property. Because you can't govern self, which is highlighted right here. Can't govern self. In-house, can't have no in-house internal affairs, can't do it. Need the European to do everything for us. Or that of the human family. Lacking an authentic knowledge of the sortilege use, the Negro legal fiction denies one a clear understanding of true law, of true world history, and of high culture, which gives stability. So they say a high culture promotes stability. Knowing world history promotes stability. Understanding true law promotes stability and supports to human progress. That sounds like expansion. So knowing your culture promotes you wanting to expand in present time. Gives you a self-esteem. Different interests. Different priorities. Yeah, does all that stuff. In general, and to Western social and political developments. Editorials of statements made by Noble Drew Ali. So we're getting into some editorial statements. Editorials of statements made by Noble Drew Ali. Noble Drew Ali brought the names and the nationality back to the Moors of North America. The forefathers of the Moors had a name and nationality, but in order to separate the Moors from the achievements of their fathers, a name was given. A name was given them which had no connection whatsoever with the founders of civilization. Conscious Moors have a proof now that they are not Negro, Black, colored, or Ethiopian, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. In the deliberations of nations, no consideration is given to a people who are not of a nation. The Europeans took the birthright away from the people, the Moors, whom they forced under bondage. They were not slaves, they were bound free men. The subsequent generation who followed them in bondage were slaves because their minds had been subjugated to a European psychology. So it wasn't slaves, it was always POW, prisoners of war. But the generation that came later, whose mind had bought into the Romanized system that Yahshua said stay clear away from. Everybody that's claiming they're following Jesus, they said stay clear away from Roman ideologies. But our people fell victim to Roman ideologies, didn't know law, thought they was Negroes. You know what I'm saying? Right? Sundry Free Moors Act. There's still people saying, oh, no, we ain't with that. We know some of our people are asleep, but South Carolina, congressional record, our people with backbone, South Carolina distinguishing themselves from the Negroes, 1790. What this say right here, 1779 and lasted until 1865. Sundry Free Moor Act, 1790. So within this period, there's people that knew thyself on the land, knew they were still noble. They were separated from the illustrious history of their forefathers, who were the founders of civilization in the mind. Oh, I came off a boat now. I'ma stop. Roots. All these things they flooding our mind with in the media now. Question. Who are the Moorish Americans? Answer. The Moorish Americans are the direct descendants of the ancient Moabites, Moors, who were the aboriginal and true natural dwellers of ancient Northwest and Southwest of Mexico. The Northwest and Southwest continents of Mexico are modernly known as Northwest and Southwest Africa. Northwest and Southwest Africa are contemporarily known as North America, Central, and South America. Question: are the Moors Indians? Answer: no. The misnomer Indian and Native American, etc., were and are fictitious social and political creations of European sociologists and the many deceptive historian descendants of the colonial inquisitionists and crusaders. The words Indian, Negro, Black, Colored, Ethiopian, etc., were and are brands and tags which are coined by way of calculated sorts of mental sorcery. Psychic attacks were conceived and propagated to steal the birthrights of the Aboriginal Moors of Al Moricanos, which is Moorish Latin for America. Al in front of that is from, you're saying from America, Al Moricanos, from Morocco, from America. Question: what authority or law binds the Aboriginal and indigenous natural peoples, Moors of America, that commands obligatory taxation, licensing, or revenue payments to the alien and occupational Europeans who have been falsely claiming to be Americans? Answer: there is no valid law nor rightful authority by which invading Europeans occupying the West have a lawful taxing authority. Taxation without representation. I know we heard of that in school. No taxation without representation. These are principles. That's civics principles, international law principles, humanitarian principles, divine principles. You don't pay taxes to a government that don't represent you. No taxation without representation. Now, if you got a republic form of government, then clearly you got a treasury, and of course the funds represent the people. You know, you have elections and things like that. Taxation without representation was and is a fraud, part of Crusade's policy, and of forced servitude. European supremacy dictums made against the Aboriginal Moors of America is based on destroyed history, altered books, records, and by force of arms. Thus, we trace the origin, existing low mental state, and unchallenged fraud taxation is manifest from a lack of knowledge of self and law. Moors have knowledge of geography, of nationality, of birthrights, and of the artificial function of color of law. Color of law is the extortion-based authority used by Europeans for tithe/tax operations. Tithe/tax operations forced against the natural peoples in the Americas. In layman's terms, that condition is known as mental and economic slavery. Question: why do Europeans who colonized North America begin to call themselves white people and free white people? When did the term white people come into popular usage by Europeans occupying North America? Answer: white means purity, means God, and means the ruler of the land. Thus, the term landlord. Landlord means landowner, landholder, freeholder, and mine host. On this colored basis, Europeans falsely claim to be the sovereigns of the Americas. The phrase white people is of a social power caste system, having nothing to do with skin complexion. The white people social rank phrase was usurpingly adopted by the Whiggamore Party. Y'all should look that up. Reference point. Whiggamore Party. The name Moore is in that party, which was the United States political party in the 1800s. You'll see they have wigs on, imitating the Moors, because their complexion of hair was not like that. They were wearing wigs that we had on naturally. imitating the Moors. This was not too long ago, 1800s. Whiggamore Party in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and fervently propagated for acceptance during the years 1854 to 1863. Lincoln was alive during this time. This was not too long ago. They were mocking your ancestors.
I want to comment.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I want to make a comment on the part where you said white represented purity. There's an Orisha. His name is Obatala. He's like the Orisha of the land, like how you were saying how they go by white, and that means they're the ruler of the land. Well,
Right.
anyway, this Orisha is the Orisha of purity and cleanliness, and he wears a white turban on his head, and he's known as the god of the white cloth. So, it's just real interesting how that ties in, how they're taking that concept, and his name is Obatala. It has the Allah in his name too. So I know that it's all related. Like it's a lot of chemistry there, what
Yeah.
they're doing with that.
Yeah, the correlations is clicking. It's clicking, yeah.
Yeah.
Islam. Question. What does the phrase free white people mean in law? Answer. Free white people is an ancient caste status term, which applies to status and not to skin complexion. Being a universal law phrase, refer to a good law dictionary which defines ancient and modern terms of jurisprudence. The following is an excerpt from Henry Campbell Black's Law Dictionary, 4th edition, West Publishing Company. Free white persons. Free white persons refer to a Naturalization Act as amended by Act July 14, 1870. So this was 2 years after Lincoln got killed. Has meaning naturally given to it when first used in First Stat 103C3, meaning all persons belonging to a European race, then commonly counted as white and their descendants, including such descendants in other countries which they have migrated. Free white person includes all European Jews, more or less intermixed with peoples of Celtic, which are original Moors of Europa or Europe, Scandinavian, Teutonic, Iberian, Latin, Greek, Slavic descent. It includes Magyars, Lapps, and Finns, which are Moors, Baskiks, Moors, Albanians, Moors. It includes the mixed Latin, Celtic, Iberian. We already established the Celts were the original Moors of Europe. Was referenced Ancient and Modern Britons by McRitchie, and that that's a reference point. The European validating that the Moors were the original Europeans as well. The Moorish inhabitants of Spain. So all these things, all these bloodlines, if you are that, then you're considered status of white. So the Phoenicians, we already know those as Moors. North African inhabitants of Sicily, the original inhabitants of Sicily, we already know them as Moors. And the mixed Slav and Tartar inhabitants of South Russia, we already know Tartary, Moors. Any ancient paintings of Genghis Khan, you're gonna see darker than Wesley Snipes. It's not a secret. The Tsars in Russia, right? Moors. The name Vladimir is a Moorish noble title of Russia. So Putin that's not his name. Vladimir, that's not his name. That's the seat he's sitting in. He's a Vladimir. FYI. C. So free white person does not mean Caucasian race. Once again, had nothing to do with skin complexion, political status. The people of the land, the original inhabitants of the land are white, not skin complexion. The Europeans, the Irish, the British, the Dutch that were in the 13 colonies before they were even called the United States, they were under, paying taxes to their sovereign crown before they the Declaration of Independence. Their status was black, but they were modern European, but they were black. So they should have been saying black power. Free white person does not mean Caucasian race, Aryan race, or Indo-European race, nor the mixed Indo-European, Dravidian, Semitic, and Mongolian peoples who inhabit Persia. A Syrian of Asiatic birth and descent will not be entitled to become a naturalized citizen of the United States as being a free white person. Then case law to support what I've just read above. It's like 4 case laws. I'm going to screenshot that. It was also in a Black's Law Dictionary as well. So I'm going to go through one more portion. Anybody got any thoughts, questions on what I just read? If not, I'm going to continue to this next piece. Okay, so we got, once again, we got organizational, historical.
Hey, I do got another connection. How you were to piggyback on what you guys were saying about the white being what is it called?
Pure.
Yeah, pure, like a term, right? For a term to describe someone of nobility, right?
Right, or status.
Yeah, well, it has to go back with that book I was telling you about. It says that Quetzalcoatl, he was the light bearer or the morning star, and that that has to do also with what you're talking about, and kind of like how Osiris was in the same boat of being in the high status of over everyone,
And the way they use light bearer, it makes me think of like he was knowledgeable.
Right.
He was illuminated.
It was illuminated.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, that goes together. Quetzalcoatl, he came all white, noble, white turban. Some say white beard. He had gray beard. It's a lot of stories about that. But yeah, that white noble look, that purity. Did you have anything else you wanted to share?
No, I was just, trying to piggyback what you guys were saying.
You gotta say camelback, man.
Camelback. My bad. You're right. Here
we go, man.
Camelback. I like that.
Yes, sir. Salam. All right. So I'm gonna continue then with this piece, and we can close out and have some miscellaneous thoughts and how we moving forward and things like that. But Islam. All right. So we had the old Canaanite temple, which we should know by now, the year. Then at that point, it became the Moorish Holy Temple of Science. Then he created a corpse, Moorish Science Temple of America, which this civics organization would do business as this. So still a civics organization. Noble Jew Ali is a modern day redeemer and restorer. He established the Moorish movement in North America, which has been publicly operative since 1913 or 1333 Moorish calendar. This movement was founded to facilitate, to support, and to help in his great missionary program of uplifting fallen humanity and to bring the Moors, his people, back into the constitutional fold of government. Much emphasis was put upon securing the divine rights and the birthrights of the fallen Moors of Northwest Mexam, North America. There are certain indispensable features about the organizational structure of the Moorish temples in the Americas, which must always be preserved by the heads of all temples for the purpose of maintaining functional integrity, progress, stability, economic security, and for the effective application and maintenance of the civics and religious organizations, holding true to the uplifting cause. Noble Drew Ali, reestablishing the de jure proper person and national civics political form for reparations of the nation to be recognized by the legitimate national and international laws of the nations of the earth. He went to the Pan American Conference, reference point. That's an international platform. Basically saying he's the ambassador for the Moors. That's in North America. It's Moors that it's people up there that don't think they're black, Negro, color. They already know who their ancestors are. They are, and then, it's a national republic form of government going on. We need to link up, and this was pre-organization of American states, where the Inter-American Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People got its charter from, which the United States is a member of. So that's another binding contract for the rights of indigenous people. But this was pre that time. And it was called the Pan American Conference. In Cuba is where he was repping for our people internationally. Saying, look, we got treaties. It's documented who the Moors are. Everybody up here in North America is not thinking they're black, Negro, colored, Hispanic, Latino, and Indian. It's a bunch of us that's woke. That's how he was talking. National, international laws of the nations of the earth. Therefore, nationality cards of identification and passports were issued to those citizens members of the Moorish divine and national movement. Those who know of the laws that govern civilization and of the expanded nations on the planet know too well that identification is elemental to one's capacity to actualize and to exercise the secured and inalienable rights which apply to the citizens of principled and constitutional government. The gold, the silver, the commerce all belong to the citizens and the citizens alone. Remember the honor of our ancient mothers and fathers. Be yourself. Appropriate persona sui juris. Be conscious, active, and diligent about your identity and your status in the affairs of men. All law is specific. So once again, you say citizens. You have to put that in, qualify that and put that in perspective. If you have a republic form of government, a citizen would be somebody in that government that's paying dues there. They got, like I said, you got allegiance, you're part of a state. So it's Moroccan citizens in that sense. Because if you're not active and you just proclaim your nationality and you're just gonna sit on the couch and just continue doing what you were doing, then you're not a citizen because you're not active in your state body of your nation state. You're not a citizen of your state. Citizen don't mean U.S. citizen. That's not the language he was talking about. Once again, if you know international law, you won't get confused on terminology and status and context. Noble Drew Ali declared that every temple must have a school. The half has not been told. If I told you everything, you will go back to sleep. Study, study, study. And when you would have studied well and would ask me what to study next, I will reply, study yourselves. The following is an impacting and revealing excerpt from Noble Drew Ali's establishing newspaper of 1929. That newspaper was called the Moorish Guide. It was a vital part of the Moorish movement. It filled a void in the distribution of information and was a vehicle for a broad base of communication for Moorish Americans across the country. It also allowed and gave the general public an opportunity to read and to analyze with a true perspective of what the Moorish movement was and is all about. The common people will be better served to understand the truth about their stolen birthrights and about their true primogeniture or bloodline connection to the organic lands called America, as well as their actual and true social and political ties to the high culture principles that are primal to the founding of the great republic styled as the United States of America. The Moorish Guide newspaper went a long way to bring knowledge and updated activities information to the people who needed it most. Read the following excerpt and analyze it. Give it your undivided attention and critique it both in view of its purpose, its function, its reason and existence, its social political power, and its revealing nature concerning the Moorish divine and national movement at large. Many disingenuous people did not want the Moorish Guide to remain in the public's eye because its inevitable success and development would expose them, as well as tell the truth about the Moorish movement, which has usually been misrepresented to the public. So here's an excerpt from the Moorish Guide newspaper in 1929, 1349, Moorish calendar year. The Moorish Guide enters the field of journalism with malice to none and charity to all. It is not our purpose to disregard the work of other splendid journals. It is not our purpose to fail to give due attention and space to all American citizens, individuals, or organizations alike who are working in their chosen fields of endeavor for the progress and development of all American citizens and all American institutions. We hope to cooperate with them in the intensive and ruling battle for universal justice. The Moorish Guide feels that the greatest weapon in the hands of our group today in America is our press. The truth will never be told about the disadvantaged minority by the general press of any other country, whether that minority be racial, political, or religious, unless we express ourselves through papers of our own. The truth about us will not be told. Many of the beautiful things, many of the hopeful things, and events which mark the progress of our group will go unrecorded were it not our papers of our own. Our papers are our only hope of shoveling ourselves out from under the avalanche of lies that are annually let loose upon us. A strong free press is the best possible safeguard of the liberties and the general promotion and defense of the interests of strong free people. And that's a quote by Noble Drew Ali. And, even today, it's good just to have things documented. As we live in this Moorish life, this is an era of time that's gonna go down in time. People are gonna look back at things we was doing and how we was part of the infrastructure, trying to get infrastructure established and things of that nature. You know what I'm saying? You want to go down as a noble. You know what I mean? At least I do. I want my name to go down as shit, but like how all these cons, that's honorable. It ain't really nothing else to really be known for outside of unifying the people, centralizing finances, getting businesses started. Because I'm looking around at all other human life forms around me, ants, animals. I see unity. Other nationalities of humans, I see unity. So that's clearly what we're supposed to be doing, working together and seeing how great we can be while we having this physical experience. We have provided an outline which includes a graphic outline of the Moorish Divine and National Movement in its institutional and structural operations, involving the proper institutional goals and operations as mandated for the various Moorish temples. It is like an umbrella or mother movement out of which expanded activities have developed and taken root in society. It was established for uplifting fallen humanity and fostering humane, moral, and ethical activities among the Moors in North America, the North Gate. The MDNM consists of, but is not limited to, spiritual enlightenment, social improvement, established schools, historical restoration, law, order, and governmental principles, nationality, reclamation, high culture, reintroduction, civics instruction, religious instruction, economic security, and all around progress community activities, especially in business and commerce among the Moors of America. Young business, Young Businessman League, Women's Auxiliary, etc. Keep in mind that the social, political, and civilization equation and synonym for unity is called nationality. So the synonym for unity is nationality. So you proclaim your nationality back to the ants thing, promotion of unity. That's your sole motivation. Linking up, linking up. How can we flip this? How can we make something happen? How can we expand? If it's not that, you're looked at as handicapped, stateless, dead, useless eater, 3/5. If that's not where your mind is at. Nationality is that quality or character. Nationality is that quality or character which arises from the fact of a natural person belonging to a nation or state. Nationality determines the political status of the individual, especially with reference to allegiance. Are you really with this? Or is it just you trying to, get something, learn something, get out of something, and I'm out of here? Or is you really with nation building on all levels, rapport, specializing in something to promote, being locked in, letting this be the priority of your life? Status refers to the standing, state, or condition of the social position that one has, thus the legal relation of the individual to the rest of the community. The rights, the duties, the capacities, and incapacities which determine the legal categorization of a person to a given class. Status is a legal personal relationship, not temporary in its nature, nor terminable at the mere will of the party with which third persons and the state are concerned. So no outside entity can terminate a nationality. You have a right to your nationality. It's human rights things on the books that say such. Therefore, Noble Jew Ali declared to the Moors of North America, if you don't do anything else, declare your nationality. The greatest weapon in the hands of our group today in America is our press. All Moorish scholars, adepts, sheiks, sheikesses, historians, neophytes, doctors of philosophy, Amanist masters, and researchers, etc., will find the following caption: institutions and social political activities to be primal throughout Noble Jew Ali's teachings, instructions, and declarations made to the Moors of North America. It is in our best interest to promote, to preserve, and to build upon them. So here's a flow chart of such, an example of a flow chart of what was going on. Old Canaanite Temple, 1913, Newark, New Jersey. Moorish Holy Temple of Science, Civic Organization, 1925. Doing business as Moorish Science Temple of America, 1928. Subsidiaries. Different organizations within the umbrella of Moorish Holy Temple of Science doing business as Moorish Science Temple of America. The name of those subsidiaries are cabinets. Schools for Moorish children, industry business, press, newspaper, young businessman's league, women auxiliary, Moorish community development, civics and law instruction and communications, etc. Take your affairs, take your place amongst the affairs of men on the earth planet. Meaning, look around. Most people, like I say, work together, got businesses, doing trade across the planet, constantly thinking about expanding in their prosperity and things like that. So, once again, if we're saying we are who our ancestors are, then that's what we're saying we are. People that are about that life, the life that our ancestors was about. That's what I'm saying. Other than that, we're faking. So I'm gonna stop the recording, have a little conversational piece.